All right, so we have collected enough sap to start evaporating it and turning it into syrup. We are going to do that outdoors in my state-of-the-art, high-tech, super sweet maple evaporator. Stick around. Before we get started with this does involve basically playing with fire. So if you're not comfortable building a fire or maintaining a fire, don't do it. But if you are going to do it, make sure you have a fire extinguisher nearby. Use all common sense protocol to make sure that you don't get out of hand. Like, don't put this thing right up next to your house or in the woods or something like that. I'm on my patio here. I'm surrounded by bricks. Nothing's going to happen even if it gets out of control. So just be careful, please. Thank you. All right, so hopefully you watched the first video on how to collect sap and store it until you're ready to start evaporating. And if not, I'll put a link at the end of this video and you can go back and check it out afterwards. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be taking 20 gallons of sap. We're going to be turning it, starting the process of turning it down into about a half gallon of syrup. What I have to do this is this pretty sweet maple evaporator. I was joking before when I said it was high tech. It's a filing cabinet. Basically what I did was I turned it on its side so that the drawer area would be facing up. Took out the drawers, built a frame out of old bed rails. I welded them together with my extremely crappy welding skills. And then I cut a door for, I cut a hole for the door on one end, and I cut another hole to put a chimney on the other end. And that's really it. There's a wire grate in the bottom. I don't have any video of myself building this. But there is a great video online from a YouTube channel called Garden Fork. That's the one I watched to build this one. So what I'll do is down below in the description, I will put a link to that video. When you're done watching this, go check it out. All sorts of great maple evaporator information on that channel. So what you have here in this setup is you've got 3 pans. These are just pans that you would have in like a buffet, warming pans, whatever they're called. I've got 2 big ones and 1 little small one at the end. So one of the things I like to do with my sap before I put it in the evaporator is I like to give it a quick sort of like pre-filter. And all I'm using for that is just some white cotton fabric. These are actually old t-shirts that I cut into pieces and washed so that it's nice and clean. I just stretch it over a bucket, hold it on there with a bungee cord, and then just pour the sap through there. And what that does is it gets out any bugs, any pieces of bark, or any wood shavings that might be in there. Just gives kind of like a really quick cleaning to the sap so you don't have to fish that stuff out later as you're evaporating it. Alright, so the way this is designed to work is that as the fire burns, this is the hottest pan over here and this evaporates the quickest. A little bit cooler here, and this one's kind of cold because it's near the door and that's where a lot of the air comes in, so it doesn't get as hot as a fire. But as the maple sap evaporates, what you want to do is you want to transfer it from the warm to the hot to fill it back up like this. And then once you get this last pan up to level, take it from here and bring it back into here. So you're just transferring it from here to here. This will be the finishing pan, the pan that has the actual maple syrup in it at the end.
Hot stuff. I'm melting myself.
Pretty simple process. You're just moving it down the line, keeping it going for a long time until you get all the water evaporated off. Speaking of water evaporating off, you can see if you look at all this steam coming off how much water actually comes out of here. That's why I prefer to use these pans. You can do this outside if you don't have any sort of sweet rig like I do. You can do it outside with a couple things. If you have an old turkey fryer, you can use that to evaporate sap. The problem with a turkey fryer is if you look at the width of the pot, it's not a very big, circumference, not a big surface area for evaporation. So the evaporation is going to take a long time. And these things run on propane, and that's going to cost money. You can also use the side burner on your gas grill if you have one. Problem with that is it doesn't put out as much BTUs as a turkey fryer, and it's going to use a lot of propane. So I prefer to use the file cabinet method. What I have for fuel today, I got a bunch of pallets that I got from free. I'm just going to chop them up. I like them because this filing cabinet is nice and long, so you can fit really big, long pieces of wood in there. And then I also have a bunch of pine logs that I wouldn't burn inside my house. I've got a bunch of pine logs back behind the shed. I'm going to use those as fuel as well to keep this thing rolling. So when the sap starts boiling, it starts off with these really fine bubbles, and it can get out of control really quick. In fact, you can see right here, it overboiled. What you need to do is you need to put some sort of fat into the sap to kind of break the surface tension of the sap as it's boiling and keep those bubbles under control. A couple things you can use. I've seen some people chuck in like a little chunk of bacon in there and let it float around. That the fat from the bacon is enough to cut the surface tension. I've seen guys use canola oil. I've seen guys use non-dairy coffee creamer, you know, the stuff that you shake out of the can. All that stuff works great and it all boils off. What I use is I've got some organic coconut oil in my house. I keep it in this little empty tin can that I have, and I just keep the can on the side of the evaporator to keep the coconut oil nice and melted, and every so often I'll put a couple drops in there so you keep the surface tension broken. You can see here when this one's boiling over, I added a couple of drops, and within a couple seconds it was back down to under control. So basically all we're doing here when we're trying to make maple syrup is we are taking sap and we're evaporating off the water. Okay? Once enough water gets evaporated off, it'll get to that thick golden consistency that is maple syrup. You can see that the sap is taking on kind of like a tan, almost like a golden color. That's when you know you're starting to get close. And the steam that's coming off of it smells so sweet. It smells just like vaporized maple syrup. It's so good. How do we know that it's got to maple syrup? Well, the rule is you need to boil it until it gets to 7 degrees above the temperature for boiling water. Where I'm from, at my elevation, water boils at 212 degrees. So if I bring this up to 219 degrees, it will be syrup. Now, you can push it a little bit. I like to bring it up to 220. I feel it makes a little bit thicker of a syrup and not so thin and watery, which I prefer my syrup to be a little thick. So 219, 220 is what I'm bringing it up to, but make sure you find out what the boiling point of water is where you live and do it according to that. Don't do it according to what I'm telling you to do. Once you get all the sap into that last container, into that last tray, I take the temperature of that up to about 216, and then I dump it into a pot. The reason I'm going to dump it into a pot is I'm going to bring it inside, and on my stovetop where I can control the heat a lot better, I'm going to do the final finishing and canning in there. That's going to be the next video I do, so there will be a link at the end of this video to get there once I have it up. I started this at around 11 in the morning, and I was boiling till about 3 until I got it to a small enough quantity that it would fit into a pot. Make sure you follow me on social media, Twitter and Instagram. Tell a friend about my channel, and also subscribe and press that little bell right next to the subscription button. That way, every time I have a new video coming out, you'll be notified. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.